Hi, I'm Michael Polozola with the LSU Ag Center, Extension Fruit and Nut Specialist. And it can be kind of intimidating knowing how to train blackberries if you haven't done it before. So we're going to walk through a little bit on how to train this traditional floricane, primocane growth habit blackberry variety. First thing I've done is removed a lot of the supports that I used last year to hold it onto the trellis system. This particular one, many of these are still good to go for the next season, so I like to save them and reuse. And after having removed most of them, it tends to be fairly easy, not too fairly difficult to get it off because they loop on one another. I'm going to go through and prune out these floricanes out at the ground and remove them, and then we'll look and see what primocanes I have to look to choose from to get trained. To be a bit careful because they're kind of intermingled. I normally like to do it a little bit earlier in the season, but this is when we could get out here for this one. And you can see where having taken those supports off, this comes out fairly easy like that. Only thing is where it still has a little bit of the tape that I originally used up there, and it makes a huge difference in seeing what we have left to do. So now I'm going to look at these. I only need about 2 of them with my primocane suppression method, training them on the trellis. So I'm going to look at it and see which of these that I think are probably best suited to be training to this trellis. And I really do like this one here. If it wasn't as tall as it is already, I would use some green garden tape to train it to the trellis. That's the tape kind of like this that has some stretch and give in it, and it works really well for if this was much shorter, I could tie it on and have it where I could train it up on there. But this one really isn't needing it. What I'm going to do for this particular guy is I'm going to take one of those rubber bands and tie it over on itself. And there we go. We have at least there. Now I want it to control for height. What I'm ultimately wanting to do is 2 of these that are going to train and go out as my new cordons or laterals. So I'm actually going to prune it off just like that. And I only want it to focus on that particular growth. So I'm actually going to go through and prune out a lot of this growth here so that it focuses on that. In doing that, I actually see that that's what I thought I wanted there is actually an offshoot. And I'm actually going to change my mind. And it's important to maintain that level of flexibility when you're doing that. So this one's gone out for a long time. So this one's actually the main lateral and we'll make a stronger one. So we're instead gonna bring this guy up and have it trained. Even though it's not quite as thick up there as I would kind of like it to be, it will grow out. But so this one's coming out significantly at an angle as opposed to this one. I can train really straight right here. I'm going to turn around. It's a little bit further out. I'm actually going to also secure it here on the second line. So this is going to be the one that we are going to eventually change for that. And I am going to tip it a little bit to encourage it to put out shoots on this side and that side. So now I've got to make a choice on which shoot do I want for the lower line here. Now my lines, for those of you may be wondering, are 3 feet and 5 feet. There's flexibility for that. I don't think I would go below 3 feet, but you could go above 5 if that works better for your height and how you pick. This one's a little closer than I want and doesn't have the form I want coming through. So I think I'm going to end up going with this guy. Although, no, again, this one's going to have a much stronger stability because you can see this one's already starting. Well, we could go 2 different directions. So let me think about what I'm doing here. Because this one, I could actually jump ahead and start training this way. And because of that, I may go with that. This one, if you didn't have that, you could cut this and eventually train for it. But this one's already a little step ahead for how I want it to be, so we're going to go with it instead. And you can see the difference in what we started. We've taken out a significant amount of material. Feel free to take a good bit out as long as you're doing it early enough, because it will put out more growth. I have to come out here at least once a week to come and make some pruning cuts to ensure that it comes out how I want it to be. So because this one already has the two shoots going the opposite directions, I normally like to do it when they're a little bit more tender. But this is still good enough that it should be okay. Have that one there. That can be a complication of starting with larger material like this. One thing to keep in mind, when you are training to go these directions, you want something that is curving upward. You don't want to be bringing it down, because if you're bringing it down, that's a weaker branch angle, and later in the growing season it can start to have difficulties. And it's why we caught this one just in time. Too much longer and it would not have been quite as flexible. And I'm going through, you can see how the lower leaves here have discolorations. That's just soil-borne pathogens that can create that issue through splashback. That's another reason I really like this technique, is you go through and I will keep it clean like this, because I'm not focused on getting the growth down here. What I really want is for it to fill out on those directions. So if you keep it clear below where you have your lines, it will fill out your trellis system, and you don't have to worry about then having to go back and spray those with fungicides. So this is how we would get it started. We were lucky on this particular one, and it already had some that we could show going down the cordons. But this is going to be what you normally see. This is how you would normally do it. Have one leader going up, and then you'd have to come back a week or so later and train your shoots that came to the side there.